Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Juju Show, number 18. We're getting up there, man. We need to do a dance. We get to 20 or something. Or actually, let's see. A year is 52 weeks, right? So 26 is a year. So we're coming a year. All right, then we'll have a celebration. I'm your host, Rick Harding with Juju Engineering here, and I have my buddy and co-worker and collaborator, Kevin, here with me. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing good. Esteemed colleague would be a fine title if you like.
Is that what it is? Are we going the senator route? I think we should go the senator route. My esteemed colleague from where are you out of again? You're somewhere.
Austin, Texas, baby.
Are you? I don't normally think of you as a straight up Texan. You seem non-Texan-y.
Well, half Texan, half hipster.
Man, I see. So that's why you're in Austin. Well, that makes all the sense now.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Yeah, no, so I'm Kevin, and I work on big data charms primarily, but I'm excited about today's show. I don't want to spoil it, but
we got some candy for big data folks today. So we're going to talk some candy, some Juju 2.3 candy. But first, we need to go through our community news update and start off with the update. So I have a link in the show notes, but Juju is they're putting out weekly development summaries, and you may have noticed a lot of teams in Canonical putting out weekly development summaries. So I put a link to the mailing list, the Juju Dev mailing list, where they have the summary. Now, I'll be honest, I'm going to work with the Juju team to get these on the Insights blog. Insights.ubuntu.com is where a lot of Canonical engineering puts out interesting material, kind of thought pieces, as well as these things like these weekly or bi-weekly development summary updates. So right now on Insights, you can see the Kubernetes team, the OpenStack team, the LexD team, the MAAS team, maybe even the big data team.
So I haven't actually syndicated to Insights, but I do write summaries on Medium. I will do that. I will start putting those over on Insights.
I can help you out with that. So I think we're going to try to pull those together. Anyway, but for now, I have a mailing list link for you on basically what the team's been up to the last week. And I'm going to show some of it off here for our topic. So keep an eye out for those. And if you're curious about tracking that more day-to-day development without tracking, GitHub pull requests or stuff, it's a really good idea to kind of follow and keep an eye on the teams that you're doing there. And Coder Europe, yes, we will take questions for the show. Type them in here. I will do my best to watch out for you. I see you down in my corner, my IRC client. All right, next up, I want to say bravo, welcome, Billy Olsen, new charmer, approved and recommended. So we always like to see new charmers join the ranks. So if you're interested in being a charmer, check out the docs on how to become a charmer. But I want to call Billy out and go, to you, sir, I salute you. Good work. And I'd like to see that in the mailing lists. Let's see. Next up, I want to plug myself. I was down at PyOhio, a Python conference, a state south of me, and I gave a talk. Basically, it was themed around the story of libjuju and like why it's really important if you have an API to not stop at having an API, but to own the client experience as well. Because for most users, I think in my room, the room that I did the summary at, right, like almost everybody has used an API, but how many people make raw API requests manually? There were like 4 in the room of 60 or whatever. Almost everyone uses some sort of library to help smooth the use of APIs. And so libjuju is our tool in the Python community for doing exactly that, for providing a nice, well thought out, sticks to the principles of Juju, library experience as a client that you can use to automate and use in your own tools. So go check that video out. It's down in the show notes. And it's, if I do say so myself, nice little 20-minute talk. Not too bad. I dressed up a little bit for it. So, if you ever want to do the what's Rick look like with a jacket on, there you go. See, I'm trying to sell this really big. Let's go check out my talk down there. From that to the, hey, just sometimes, things don't always go smooth. I wanted to call out the JAAS add model outage from the day before yesterday. And so what I wanted to do is just kind of mention, we did have an issue. We've been working to get all the JAAS controllers onto the latest version of Juju 2.2.2. And in the process of that, along with a timing issue, basically myself and someone else tried to, when we had the upgrade happen, we both went in and tried to slam creating some new models to test that the upgrade was good. And we hit a race condition in the code, which caused us to basically break add model. Not in a controller. This can't happen in your own controllers. This was specific to JAAS because we have a layer when you add a model that figures out what controller and what cloud that all this happens in. So it wasn't, I want to make sure that it's clear that this isn't something you would have run into just using your own ad model on your own Juju 2.2.2. This was kind of our backend services on top of Juju that hit this. The fastest, best thing to do was either, one, we could go monkey with databases, or two, fix the issue. So we took the one-day turnaround, being a beta product, to fix the issue, test the issue, and roll it out to production. All's well. Go and add models to your heart's content. But it's one of those, don't want to dodge it. Sometimes stuff breaks. I want to thank the team for jumping in there. We had guys stay way late in Europe who kind of knew the code better than others and all that. So I want to thank them for their hard work on that and for getting the production rollout up and done. So go bang on Juju 2.2.2 in JAAS with your new models. And shortly, we're in the process now of getting the existing models updated. So your 2.1.3 models in JAAS will be updated to 2.2.2 shortly over the coming days. So I'm in a small window because I clicked Kevin and am not letting Hangouts change the chat thing. Thank you. See, this is why I love this live thing. You get to have everyone telling you all the stuff from the IRC channel. All right. JAAS is awesome. What's next? Charmhelpers, move to GitHub. We talked about it. And there we go. So it's officially moved. Go update where you're pulling Charmhelpers from. Go file your issues there. Go hack some code, fix some bugs, and do some pull requests. So thanks to James for that. James drove moving that over there. So good work, James. Awesome. Next up, this is a really interesting thread. So I have to admit, I haven't done a ton of charming. I've done a little bit here and there, and I've done proof of concepts of stuff, and I've got half done charms kind of all over the place. But there was a really interesting conversation about using state tracking to basically, it was getting called multiple times, and it was confusing some folks. Hey, how do I do this? Basically, they want something to happen once and only once. But because these things get called over and over, it was kind of confusing on what the best practice was, which led to some examples of best practice, some heads up that there's some work coming down the pipe. So I think the word state was throwing people off. State sounds like a very static thing. And what they're saying was, well, really what it is you're kind of setting like a flag. It's not so much as state that once set doesn't move or change or get reevaluated or anything, and then some of it was just, hey, there's some good feedback in there. We should look at making things cleaner and better in the future. So there's room for folks to get involved and go, hey, this doesn't quite work like how I think it should or would, or it's just confusing to me. There's a lot of good room to participate and to jump in and help improve things. So it's a really interesting conversation. It kind of went in a lot of different forks of stuff. But if you're a charm writer and you're doing charms, I think it's really good to kind of follow what some people hit and how people work around some of those issues. There's some good, general practices stuff that you kind of sometimes forget that not everyone knows or thinks of or has seen yet. So check that thread out. And here we go. Here's one for you, man. CephFS, so the Ceph file system backend for Hadoop. Looks like James is thinking about trying this thing out, and there was some good discussion around things to watch out for and stuff.
Yeah, so we're actually looking at decoupling the storage and compute for Hadoop, right? Typically, you think of HDFS, the Hadoop distributed file system, providing your data layer, and then a Yarn or a Spark application providing your compute. It'd be awfully nice if we could use something besides HDFS, right? Sometimes that's just too heavyweight for people. So dropping in Ceph as that compute, or sorry, as that storage backend, or even a Cassandra database, or really anything, any option that you might want instead of HDFS would be nice in a Hadoop solution. So it's on our, we should look more into this roadmap kind of thing. Not scheduled for this cycle, but we'll probably bring that in for next cycle.
Well, what's exciting is that there's some folks that look like they're going to try it out. and move some forward and do some testing. So if you're interested at all, again, this is, I don't know, I just love where there's circles of folks with similar interests who could work together. And I always like to say, you know, we're smarter together than I am sitting alone in my office. That's for sure. So, you know, there's some other brilliant minds to kind of hang out with and to chat with and do some testing and provide some feedback and see what other ideas are out there. So check out that thread if you're interested in Ceph and Hadoop. It might be interesting for you to participate and play with for sure. All right, let's see. So Coder Europe has a question on IRC. Let's hit this up. So he says on Marco's Juju Charms webpage, so basically jujucharms.com/u/Marco Cheppy, there's a Discourse charm, and that charm has been updated to Xenial. It doesn't work on Precise, it seems like. So my question is he's rerouting people to this page, and it looks too out of date for them to use. Let's see. Xenial's newer than Precise, right? Maybe it's the other way around. Let me go pull this up and look.
Yeah, so I took a look at this. I don't actually see a Xenial version of that charm. Typically, you could tack on the series after the charm name, and it would pull up that version.
Series supported at the top of it here. Let's see if I could spell Marco's last name right here.
Or, you know, click the link.
Well, I suppose you could do that if you not getting my typing practice in for today. All right, so the charm is the Discourse charm, which is way down here. And yet, oh, I see, other way around. It's available for Precise, but not for Xenial. All right. So, and basically he wants to show people, some people here, and it's out of date. And as far as how can we get it kind of up to date, I'm going to take this that way. I'm going to say, you know what? There's a community person who's interested in a newer Discourse charm. So what this means is Marco had done some work before to do a charm for Discourse that worked on Precise and has not been really updated for Xenial since. So really what this needs is someone, obviously Marco's a busy guy, he's done some good work, but it'd be really great if there were others in the community interested in Discourse who could help test the charm to see does it work on Xenial. To test that out, you can deploy it and specify the series in the command line flag. You can do -- series equals, and you can override the series in the charm, or just edit the charm itself. So download the charm. There's that page there, that home page there. There's a download zip file version. You could download it and try it. And okay, so I'll go ahead and finish, and then I'll go. So Coder Europe's got more feedback for us. Great, we've got live question updating here. So anyway, so the idea would be then to update the charm, test it, make sure it worked on the new series, and then if so, what you have to do is the charm has to be pushed up to the store and updated. Now this is Marco's page and his content, so none of us have permission to this. We can do a couple of things. One, we can ask Marco, hey Marco, why don't you give us some access to update the charm? Like give us write access to this charm, and he can do that with the charm command tool. It's a snap that you can install, so snap install charm. I don't know. So that'll get you the command and then get permission. The other thing would be, ideally, these things would live more under teams, right? You kind of don't want a single point of failure on something that multiple people are relying on. The OpenStack team, the big data team, they all push the charms not under a single namespace, but under a team that they're all a member of. And then that way they can grant access to who's a part of kind of the team, or can grant access to the team, to the charm. And then anyone in that team can push updates to jujucharms.com, again, using the charm command tool, which allows you to push updates, to track changes across the channels that are supported, and to kind of provide that single point of, hey, here's the Discourse charm. So basically, it sounds like we need to get some access and some team building around the community around Discourse in order to update this. So, all right, Coder Europe, hopefully that answers your question. If not, feel free to grab me in IRC. I am Rick_H, and maybe we'll have a new community discussion point for the next Juju show based on this. We'll see how it goes. All right, with that, main topic time. I'm going to grab my other laptop. Are you all ready for the demo? All right, let me click myself here, and I want to make this person. All right, everybody see just the Rick terminal here. All right, and everyone see the text okay? What do you think, Kevin?
I still see you.
All right. So how do I? What if I hit this button? There we go. Now do you see the Rick?
Nope.
Present to everyone.
Hey, got it.
All right. Okay, cool. It has different buttons for different presentations. I'll figure this out one of these days after 18 shows almost. All right. So here I have, this is going to get me in trouble. So I have lots of Juju on here because I like me some Juju, right? So what I have is the latest snap build from the Edge channel. And if you're not sure how to get this, check out my blog post, which I'll have a link in the show notes, that I did on the 20th of July around testing the future of Juju with snaps. That's how I test stuff out because it's easier than building stuff with Go. All right, at least for me for right now. So I have basically a almost daily build of Juju that I'm using. So this is the 2.3 upcoming stuff here. Okay. Now, what I have is I've got a lovely model here of Postgres. I'm going to do a lot of Postgres here because the Postgres charm is updated to support storage, and I need to find some other ones that support storage really well to do future demos. But for today, we're going to pretend that everyone here is a Postgres fanboy. But insert your favorite service that uses storage in some capacity, that has important information that you keep on disks. And you're going to see a couple of things here. I've deployed Postgres, and it's showing up here as blocked, and that's my fault. I did that on purpose. Using my 2.3 alpha, and I am on AWS. And what I've done here is I have done a deploy of Postgres like so. Well, let me just keep this one and we'll update it. When you deploy Postgres, you can say, hey, Postgres, I want you to deploy with some storage that's not the normal root volume that your instance comes up with, right? I can specify how big that is and what it's used for. So the Postgres charm declares this PG data field. And charms can declare different storage needs. So you can easily see a charm that might need storage for actual data storage, for cache purposes, for log purposes. And you may want to keep those on different file systems or different disks. And they may have different requirements. So when I do the storage, I could specify that I want a certain IOPS for my Postgres data, whereas I don't need higher IOPS for my log data, right? Like if that takes a little bit to sync out and write, oh well, right? I can specify things like a loopback device to be used for cache data so that I can get really fast kind of caching performance out of like a virtual disk, basically, with a loopback. So in this case, I've just got Postgres with its Postgres data. And what's cool is there's a storage command. How many people knew that there was a storage command? It lists out your different storage. And here you can see a couple interesting things. One, I have this one here. So this one, Postgres 1, that unit, has a PG data 1 ID'd storage file system from EBS. And this is the EBS volume number. And it's 30 gigs, and it's currently attached. And if you go back to status, what you see is this one right here. Postgres 1 is active, and that's because it's got lovely attached storage. Now notice Postgres 2 does not have any storage attached, and that's why it's blocked, and it's very upset. What I actually did is I had it deployed with storage, and then I took it away. I detached it. So there's a few commands here. You've got Juju attach storage. You've got detach storage. And you can use all this to kind of manipulate storage. So let's attach storage. And let me do help just because I can't remember the, oh, and this is where I get in trouble. I have to use my snapped version of Juju here. And it helps if it's in the right order. All right, so snap bin Juju. So I need to specify the unit and then the storage ID. So if we go back and look at my output of Juju Storage, I can see, all right, so let's do attach storage. My unit ID is PostgreSQL/2, I believe. And my storage, I can pick one of these disks. And notice I've got two of them. I've got a 30 gig and a 50 gig here. Let's go ahead and use PG data/0. That's the 30 gig one. So that's going to attach. And now as I watch status, it's going to be executing and it's going to update. And I have now basically given a 30 gig disk to Postgres to use for its data. So that's kind of cool, right? How you can, manipulate and have really kind of good practices for having larger volumes of disk and everything. And if you look in my AWS panel here, you can kind of see what's going on. You can see here, this one that's available, it's currently getting attached. This is the 30 gig disk that I stuck onto my unit. And then down here, there's this empty one. This one, notice it doesn't have a name or anything, and this is the 50 gig volume. What I actually did here is you can actually create storage volumes on AWS and then import them into the model. And so this 50 gig volume I created by going to my console here and hitting create volume. And I created a magnetic disk, like just a slow spinny disk with no real requirements, made it 50 gig. And then I did an import. Here you can see this command. This is the command I ran. I imported the file system, which is of EBS type, this volume ID, and it's for the PG data. This is what the charm wants to use it for. This is kind of the name of it. So I made it PG data. And that's how I got this empty disk here that I'm not currently using for anything, right? So that's the volume ID. And I could then use this in my model. So this is really kind of cool. What this gets me really thinking about ways we could use this, right? So you could imagine having a snapshotted storage volume in EDBS from something, whether it be from, maybe you were using some AWS Lambda stuff and it threw some info to disk, or, maybe you were uploading just a ton of data and you wanted to pass it into an existing model that you had or whatnot. It's really exciting to kind of think of the ways you could use getting these file systems attached into running units of Juju workloads. So this is kind of cool. Now, what I'd like to see, I'm going to ask Kevin here to help me out, because I think this is, what do they always say is the fastest way to send large chunks of data?
USPS.
Exactly, through the mail. AWS has a snowball unit. Google Compute has another kind of thing where basically they send you a disk in a box and you plug it in and you copy all your bytes to it and then you ship it around. And so this seems like a really interesting idea for big data purposes, where you may have something that generates a lot of data that maybe you run. Maybe you have a model, and in that model, you've got a disk that you're going to store just terabytes of data at. Well, the fastest thing to do may not be to clone it or to SCP it or anything. It may be to actually detach that file system from the one model and load it into a different model that'll take that data that's loaded and then process it or do some other work on it. And you could actually almost hand this disk back and forth between different models or different kind of working situations. And that might be a lot faster than actually shoving the data somewhere and pulling it back out again.
That sounds awesome. I would like to do that.
I would like to see that done because I just think it has an extra cool factor. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
So to show off the feature some more, just because this has all been very AWS centric, I do have a storage GCE model. Oh, I thought, no, it helps if I type. Oh, it helps if I switch, Juju switch storage GCE. Let me get this back up to the top. So here I've got now, this works on Google Compute. I've done the same Postgres installed. I did the same kind of, it's got a much different provider ID. Ooh, Google Compute, man, Google loves their UUIDs. So here's the 30 gigs attached to this. And I could do things like detach it. Let's detach. Detach PG, what did I call this? It's not PG. Yeah, it's PG data 0. And then when it's detached, you can then do things like deploy an application again and make sure it's detached here. Okay. Or you can add a unit and you can attach a disk sitting around or a file system sticking around to the unit that you want. So I could deploy PostgreSQL and we're going to call it, bring it back. Let's pretend our production Postgres unit, that VM died in a fire or something. We want to redeploy it. I can now do attach storage and say PG data /0. Oh, see, and this is where again I messed up. I have to grab my snap version /snap/bin/. All right, so notice it's deploying, and it's going to actually bring up a whole nother, we go to status, a whole nother application, that Postgres, but it's going to grab the disk that I stole from my older instance. So one of the big requests out of this was, hey, I've got my database and something goes wrong where I want to redeploy it. You could see that for failover cases, for production, for testing. I want to do testing, and when I do multiple test runs, I want to reuse the same file system data so I don't have to maybe git clone or pull a bunch of data down to the file system over and over again each time I do a test run. So there's a lot of ways you could really leverage this awesome storage feature stuff for everything from production and reliability all the way through to just testing and development, trying to pre-seed stuff in to help make things go faster. So I encourage you, I'll put a link in the show notes. If you go to the Juju Charms docs, so go to jujucharms.com/docs and go to /master. That's kind of the trunk version of the docs. The engineering team is working hard to get up-to-date documentation on the new storage features ready for the 2.3 release. There's two different docs. There's a charms-storage and a developer-storage. One's about using the storage feature as an operator, and one is about writing charms and how do you declare that you can use storage in cool ways. And basically, both docs are really getting up to date and helpful for playing with this. I will probably also put out a blog post where I go through some of this tinkering and playing with that I'm doing here. So yeah, I would love to hear what you could use this for. What would you do with it? How is this a missing piece for you? And test it out, provide feedback. Now's a great time while 2.3 is in development. If it's this close to something you would use it for or whatnot, provide feedback to the team, file bugs, or just reach out and let us know. Is it cool hotness or what? Come on, Kevin.
Dude, yeah, this is a huge +1 for me. I'm really excited about possibilities for attaching storage, and then just storage in general for big data.
Seems like there's good use cases.
Yeah.
Especially, like I said, I don't tend to tinker a lot with like the IAP settings and stuff, but I could definitely see where getting a file system out of EBS that has much stricter IAPS requirements and stuff would be really darn useful. So.
Yep.
So cool. Try it out. So like I said, it works on GCE, Azure, AWS, OpenStack, and even LexD. LexD has a new file storage API for playing with stuff. I've not played with that yet. I need to. Basically, you can create like a ZFS disk to use on the machine that LexD runs on. So you could grab some disks and stick them and create a ZFS pool, and then leverage that pool as storage. A storage pool to be used in Juju with the charms and stuff. And so I've got to set that up at some point and try that one out. I've been using more of the cloud stuff at the moment. That's what I tend to do more of as far as storage needs. But again, that's really handy if you're trying to do local testing of charms and of failover and all that kind of stuff in a really obviously cheap on your laptop or on your desktop kind of way, and make sure that that's going to work and operate the same way it would in a production cloud on an OpenStack or a GCE. So, all right, everybody, go try it out. We've gone long this week. I look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks. But until then, have fun.
See ya.